we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the MT4MH Studios, where we spread our love and we share our ketogenic lifestyles. Today, we have an exciting and inspiring guest joining us all the way from Copenhagen, Denmark. Tinne is a dedicated mother of three, an avid climber, and a jiu-jitsu enthusiast who has embraced the carnivore lifestyle, not only for herself, but for her entire family. Her journey is a testament to the power of personal stories and the incredible transformations that can happen when we make bold dietary choices. In this episode, we'll dive deep into her carnivore journey, explore the changes she's experienced, and learn how she manages to keep her family on track with a mostly carnivore diet. Whether you're a parent, an athlete, or simply curious about the carnivore lifestyle, her story is sure to inspire you. So sit back, relax, and let's get started. Tinne, how are you today?
I'm good, Steven. Thank you. How are you?
I'm excellent. I always get a bit of pre-show jitters. So I had a great morning. My stomach and my butterflies are going right now, but I feel great and I'm really excited to get your story out there. Why don't we start out with you giving us a brief introduction, maybe your background, some of your interests?
I'm Tinne and I live in Denmark and I'm 35 years old. I'm married. We have 3 kids together. I am, as you said, interested in sports alongside, of course, my job and other interests. But I climb and I've done that for 11 years. Eager boulderer. Since the fall last year, I started doing jiu-jitsu and it's really exciting and new and fun for me. I'm really enjoying it. And as you said as well, I'm a carnivore and I've been that for 7 months now.
I found you on Twitter or X. I love your content and you show all of your meals and how you're preparing meals for your kids. Recently, you posted a picture of you sprinting, and that's been one of my passions now since the last year. You credited Sean O'Mara for that. He's the reason that I started sprinting. So maybe when we get into the exercise part of your show, maybe we'll talk about the sprinting too. That would excite me.
Yeah.
I want to know about your influence and your inspiration. You mentioned to me that hearing others' personal stories was what influenced you. Can you share more about that?
It all started with my husband getting this idea about us trying carnivore. And before that, we had been keto and LCHF for 2 years. So we were already kind of in that keto kind of mindset. And so he had researched carnivore and he was like, I want to do it. And I said, sure, you just go ahead and do it. And I really wasn't interested. And I was very skeptical. And I thought it was pretty crazy to do something like that, only eat meat and eggs and stuff. And then as he progressed and he felt great and no issues really with this diet, he had some benefits as well and stuff. He started pushing me a bit more and being like, oh, shouldn't you try this? And I'm like, no, I don't think so. But then he started reading stories for me, personal stories from Sean Baker's book with the personal testimonies. And I thought like, oh, so there are actual people out there and not just my husband who feel like this is pretty great. And I was just amazed with all the things that they've healed from. And, when you hear about all that healing, it feels like it's too good to be true. But I felt like if so many people can say the same things, maybe there's something to it. So I found that very inspiring. And that was some of the things that made me like take the leap and actually do it. And that's also inspired my own content on X, because I really felt like, oh my God, somebody else shared their story, make me do this, make me feel so great and heal all these things. And now I feel so compelled to just try to do the same and just inform people about this diet, like what great things it can do for your life and things you never thought possible. And at least I didn't. So that's how I think personal stories kind of affected my startup and my journey.
That's great. And that's a big part of the reason I wanted to have you on. When I was on the Wake and Steak podcast, Connor, he was very gracious and he gave me my opportunity to tell my stories my first time. And one of the visions for my show was to find people that haven't really been out there yet. Like I had Brett on. Brett was a special guest, but he's done a million podcasts. You can go anywhere and find his story. I wanted to find people that haven't had a chance to tell their story and do like Connor did for me and give them that opportunity. One of the things you said was you were keto before, but you also said LCHF. I know what that is, but for our audience, can
Yeah,
you explain what LCHF is?
sure. It's low carb, high fat, and it's not as low carb as keto. For me, keto, at least my definition, was 20 to 30 grams of carbohydrates a day. When I did more, it was more like a flex. So some days it was keto, some days it was low carb, high fat. Then it was less than 50 grams of carbohydrates a day. Yeah, the first year of keto, it was pretty strict. And then the second year, it was more like a flex between the two.
That's a good explanation. I didn't know that there was really that distinction between the carb amounts between those two. To me, I thought LCHF, low carb, high fat, was keto.
Mm.
There's so many broad definitions of keto to begin with, but I really like that you gave a specific definition there. Can you tell us what were your diets like before the keto and the low carb, high fat?
Yeah, sure. Well, I grew up in a family where my mom and my dad, they cooked a lot of home cooked meals. Like we rarely ate out, almost never had takeaway and stuff. They were focused on giving us like good nutritious food, whole foods in general, bake their own bread, in general, good food. When I think back, I didn't eat very much meat. I thought like fat on meat was pretty gross and I didn't eat it. I wouldn't eat the skin on the chicken. I couldn't like hold a rib and like eat it like this because it would just gross me out and like there could be a blood vessel or something. It would be like yike. That just wasn't something for me back then. So that's something I've had to learn, and I'm surprised how quickly it's turned around. Then when I was in uni and stuff, and being a little older, like a young adult, um, and living on my own, of course, I took some of the things from my home and cooked that way. But also sometimes I think more like even easier solutions went in there. Sometimes junk food, sometimes more pasta and lots more bread, and then less of like the actual nutritious foods. Also because it was cheaper. And then as a young person, it's not really like specifically diet, but it kind of affects the diet. I think that I drank a lot of alcohol, like in party situations. Denmark is have a really bad reputation for drinking a lot, and I was just one of those people who did that, and yeah, many people do. It kind of makes you do stupid things, makes you eat horrible food, and it's also just not good for the body in general. So that was part of like my lifestyle back then. But I mean, I've always been focused on somehow to try to stay healthy anyway. So I've at least thought about it and tried to make choices depending on my different situations, what's been possible. And I've always tried to exercise, and I haven't really been like super overweight or anything. Before Carnivore, I felt like a pretty healthy, positive person. I guess it could get even better.
And we'll get into some of those benefits soon. You've done a great job. You don't look your age. One of the things you said was takeaway, and in the States, we call it takeout. I don't know if my audience is going to know.
Mm.
Now, if you have kids and you watch Bluey, they're in Australia and they have takeaway. There's a whole Chinese food episode there where they get takeaway. So when you said that, I thought of Bluey and it made me smile. You also
Nice.
said when you were in uni, I assume that's university, like you were in college?
Yes.
Okay. In the States, we call that college.
Okay.
Then you talked about how the fat would gross you out and the chicken skin and bones, right, would gross you out. And it was something you had to get used to, but you adjusted to it fast. Can you tell us what that's like for you now?
Yeah, I can still get like a tiny bit grossed out, especially with like blood, like vessels or veins. But I mean, I do eat them, so I'm kind of getting past it. In the beginning of Carnivore, felt it was a bit hard also to eat like the fat on the steak. I kind of knew that if I'm going to do this, I've also like, I have some previous history that kind of haunts me here. So I have to work with it. Like I can't like eat this way and then do it the way I did before. So I decided that I just have to try it out and just try to eat the fat on the steak. And so I didn't eat the fat on its own. I made sure to like have a nice cut of beef and then some fat on there and then chew it together, and it made it much easier for me. Also thinking about like that it was not making me ill, it would not make me fat, it would not like all those negative things that I had previously associated with like all this kind of like very meaty and greasy foods. It also helped like thinking like this will nourish my body, this will make me happy, this will um, soothe my joint pains, all these kind of things. So I think that helped quite a bit.
That's great. I'm glad that you're eating all those parts because they are healthy for us. I don't think it's healthy for us to just eat muscle meat. I'm fortunate that I've always enjoyed eating off the bone. Now, I was a vegetarian and a vegan for 20 years. So during that time, I wasn't doing that. But once I introduced meat again, I have always loved all the grizzly bits. I'm always going to be the guy who likes the parts that nobody else wants. So it works out well in a family or friend situation because they're going to give me all the parts they don't want and I'm going to be happy. I made some bone marrow yesterday. And when I go to the butcher and I ask for a bone, he knows to give me the one with the most grizzle and stuff on it. I want all that little bit of meat and fat and the connective tissue. I'm always going to eat that. That's my favorite.
That's also like I love ground beef, and I think it's so tasty, and also we get really good quality ground beef. But I think the reason why I find it so tasty is that there's all these like weird parts in there, all the tendons and stuff that also mixed in there. It gives great flavor and great nutrition. So I can totally relate to that, like wanting to get it all in. I also love short ribs. That's just one of my favorites. Yeah, so good.
Unfortunately, the short ribs here, at least, are a very expensive cut. They're highly sought after and they're very expensive. So I don't get to have them very often.
In Denmark, it's really not a very expensive cut. I think it's something that most people will not buy. Actually, people tend to buy like super lean meat, and all the cuts with like fat in them are not really very high in people's opinion. And yeah, so it's actually some of the cheapest meat that we can buy from our farmer is short ribs and ground beef, and they're just excellent. I'm pretty psyched about that.
Yeah, that works out well for you. I've seen a big change in our market since I've changed my diet. It's been 5 years now. And when I first started out, I would eat liver and heart, and liver was like maybe $1.99 a pound. I don't know how that's going to relate to your money over there, but liver was $1.99. It's like $8.99 now, and if it's calf's liver, it's $11.99. And heart used to be the cheapest thing I could find. That was 5 years ago, $1.99. That's jumped up. I see it for $5.99 sometimes now. And things like chuck steaks and short ribs, all the fatty cuts 5 years ago were some of the cheapest, especially chuck was some of the cheapest I can get. And now it's like they cut it into a steak and they're charging like $6.99 a pound or something for it. It's terrible. But it shows you that the message is getting out that people aren't as afraid of fat anymore and they want it. And that's why the price has gone up.
I think that still has to come in Denmark, but we'll see. People are very scared of fat in Denmark, and we also have like an extra tax on fatty foods because they thought they would prevent people from eating it and like preventing heart disease. Yeah, it's just silly.
Yeah, the tax should be on sugar.
Yeah, but there's no tax on that.
Can you describe your journey transitioning to a carnivore diet?
Once my husband really pushed me and said like, okay, Tinne, are you sure? Like, give it a go, like give it a try, and you can always stop again. And I was like being really angry and really skeptical. It took a few days for me to be taking it in and thinking about it like for real, like should I really do this? And then I was like, okay, I'll do it, but I'll do it my own way. Like you're not allowed to like tell me how to do it, or like I'll do my own research. Like don't influence me. And that was really stupid, really, because in some way, like he was so much more knowledgeable on this subject. But I felt like if it was going to be my own decision and like my own experience with it, like I wouldn't want him to like dictate the way that I had to do it. And so I did it my own way. And then I started just the same day, like, okay, so then I started, and I just ate lots of meat and lots of eggs and lots of butter. And that's pretty much still what I eat. In the beginning, I also ate more chicken and pork. I find now that I don't necessarily like them that much. It's not like I can't eat them, but they're not my favorites, and they don't satisfy me the way that beef does. But then I just started eating, and I kept drinking coffee. And I also, for the first few weeks, I also had a little bit of dark chocolate once in a while. That was like my two things. I was like, I'm never giving up coffee and I'm never giving up chocolate. And I gave up both. But it took me a little while to like do that. And I think just actually allowing myself to have those two things made it feel like less of a sacrifice for me to try it out. And yeah, I just tried it and I just completely fell in love with this way of eating and the way it makes me feel and the way like the things it does to my body is just incredible. The transition was like practically like that. And the first 2 weeks, I felt extremely tired and I had super, super sore joints, especially the joints where I had injuries previously. And I was so confused by that because I was like, all the testimonials and my husband, they were like, "Oh, it's so great," and you know, you'll feel great and energized. And it was just like, "Oh my God, I'm more tired than I was when I was pregnant, and I just want to go to sleep." And but I feel like now looking back on it, like I was probably just having like intense healing process with my inflammation going down. Um, I had a tiny visit to my parents' house in those first 2 weeks, and I ate keto there. So I ate some vegetables and stuff. And like a few hours after I ate that, that tiredness and also the achiness stopped, like completely. And next day when I was home again, and then didn't eat any of it, like my inflammation, I guess, went down again. And so I was sore and tired once more. But I mean, after 2 weeks, I felt a lot better. And once I dumped coffee, I felt even better. Coffee and chocolate, it wasn't really like a conscious decision to say, like, now I'm not having it anymore. It was more like in the morning, I woke up and I was like, I don't really feel like coffee. Maybe I just shouldn't drink it. And then I tried not to drink it. And then the next day, I didn't feel like it either. And then I was like, yeah, I'm not going to drink it then. So same happened with chocolate, pretty much. So that was a crazy thing.
That would go to show that you were having some healing going on and that your energy level was probably better because you didn't really crave the coffee in the morning. Coffee and
Mm,
chocolate are two of my loves, and love hate with coffee because it took me so long to quit and I would be off and on again. But I have the addiction piece and I also have the mental health issues. So when I start drinking coffee, like if I had coffee today, I guarantee you I would feel like, wow, this is the most amazing thing. And this is what I need in my life. And then I have one cup today, I have two tomorrow. And then the next day I'm drinking coffee instead of eating. And then I'm all strung out. And it's just terrible for me.
mm,
So dropping coffee was big for me. But I discovered not that long ago that chocolate or cocoa, anything with cocoa butter is really terrible for me as well. It's
mm,
one of my biggest offenders. It gives me terrible skin issues. It messes with my eyes and my contacts, but it also makes me
mm,
irritable and depressed. And it's a shame
mm.
because cocoa butter is 100% fat and I eat a very high fat diet. And I would
Yeah.
make little fat bombs with cocoa butter. When I was still drinking coffee, I would put it in my coffee, cocoa butter, coconut oil.
Mm.
And I love it. It tastes delicious, but I just can't have it.
Well, sometimes you just have to make that sacrifice if you really feel like you get something like much better in return, like your mental health is more important than anything, right? So it's just yeah, sometimes it just makes sense to quit those things even though you like them.
The way that I
Yeah.
feel without them is way better than they taste.
Yeah, very well put. Now I've tried transitioning both from like a standard Danish diet to a keto diet, and then from a keto low carb diet to a carnivore diet. And the difference in those two transitions mentally has been very different for me. On keto, I often felt also when I was keto adapted and just ate keto normal way, um, it wasn't really a high meat keto I did. It was more like the normal standard diet, portion of meat and then just no carbs and then a lot more vegetables. Of course, some animal fats and stuff, but it wasn't really, there wasn't enough animal proteins I see now. But that diet made me often feel like I would stuff myself. And then after I was stuffed and full, I would still feel kind of a little sad that I couldn't eat anymore. Like I wouldn't really feel satiety. I wouldn't, it would kind of make me sad as well if I thought like, oh, I would never eat a cake again, or I would never eat bread again. Not all the time, but sometimes it would hit me like, oh man, I really want to, like, someday I'll eat bread, and someday like, or I need like bread substitutes, or like to make me feel like I got what I needed. And then on a carnivore diet, I couldn't care less if I never eat bread again. I couldn't care less if I never ever eat a cake or any candy again. That thought is just like, it's disappeared. It's just like I feel so relieved. I feel like I eat now. I eat because I'm hungry, and I eat till satiety. And if I'm more hungry, I just eat some more. And I don't feel like I'm missing anything. And it's so easy when I'm out and just say like, I don't feel like the cake. I don't feel like this at a birthday or something, because I truly, like truly don't want it. Like I don't feel like I need it. I don't feel the crave for it. And that's just like, I've never felt that on keto. I never felt that before either at all. Like I crave stuff like that all the time. So it's just been kind of mind blowing, I think. Like such a relief.
That is a very powerful message of what the carnivore diet can do for you. And I'm going to give you a round of applause because I am excited for that. I hope that people are going to let that sink in, because you were already low carb, which for a lot of people is going to be enough to feel good. But switching to carnivore made that much of a difference. The way you described that keto diet then was how you were eating before you went carnivore. You were eating a small amount of meat, lots of vegetables.
Yeah, and so then I ate lots of butter, and I ate lots of heavy cream as well. Um, I didn't have any weight issues. Like I lost weight on the diet. It wasn't even like for weight loss. It was just to like improve health in general and like prevent illness that we did it. My husband did it as well. I wasn't aware like how important the nutrition in animal products were. And I thought like vegetables are so healthy. I'll get all my nutrition, all that I need from there. Um, but I feel like it's just obviously it hasn't been enough. Um, yeah, or maybe the carbs just didn't like deceive my taste buds and stuff, so I could actually feel like I was depleted in probably many vitamins and minerals, and also probably fatty acids that I needed, and amino acids and stuff. So it's not like we didn't eat meat, we did, but it was just like kind of like the same amount as before, just like more veggies and less carbs. So yeah, I wouldn't do it that way if I ever did keto again. Like I, never.
One of the things you said when you were describing your carnivore diet is that you don't really eat chicken and pork anymore because they just don't do it for you. And that's a common theme. I've heard that from a lot of people, and it's true for myself too. I'm just curious if you have any idea why that is.
Personally, I think it's because beef is more nutrition dense. I think the way that the cow processes its own food, we get rid, even if they are fed corn, we still get a better healthy animal to eat than when we eat pork and chicken, because they are fed horrible diets. If we ate in like an actual wild boar, I think it would be way better. I think it would also taste better and more nutrition dense. I find actually when I eat lots of pork, I actually get my allergy symptoms back, which sucks. So that also kind of motivates me to like not do it. I can eat a little bacon, that's not a problem, but like if I have like a real meal of pork, it just doesn't sit well with me. And that's even like free range pork from like some family members who raise it themselves, and they eat their own, like they eat their own pigs there. So it's like it's not conventionally raised. I still really can't. Well, I can't do it, but I'll just suffer from allergies the next day.
That's very interesting. So people ask me, I have my HFBO, it's high fat beef only. Well, why are you beef only? Because there's all
Mm,
those other animals out there to eat. When I'm beef only, I am optimal. I am a 10 plus. I have zero issues I can complain about. I have zero skin issues, zero digestive issues.
mm,
And I love pork. I especially love spare ribs because they've got all that fat
mm,
and gristle and chewing them off the bone and everything. But here's the difference for me is if I say I have a huge meal and it's beef fat and beef, I will go from usually I will go from feeling hungry to not feeling hungry anymore. I don't feel full. And I could just have a big meal and I can go run sprints, or I can go outside and do yard work and be active. If I have pork, an equivalent amount of pork, I'm gonna feel it in my stomach, and it's gonna be there for a while. And I'm
Mm,
not I'm not gonna wanna go and run sprints. I'm gonna wanna sit on the couch probably, which is not like me. I'm gonna wanna go watch TV or something, and then for the next couple hours, I'm gonna feel it digesting, whereas that beef meal, I'm not even gonna know that I ate. I'm just not hungry anymore, and then I will get skin issues from it. Like you have allergies,
mm,
I get a certain kind of skin thing from pork, but I'll inevitably I'll be gassy that night. I'll be gassy the next
mm.
morning. It's going to affect my bowel movements as well. So that's the reason I just leave it out, because it's just less optimal. Same thing for me with
Yeah.
chicken. It'll do the same thing. So when I had my second guest, Holly, we spoke about this too. And your explanation was really great about the difference between the animals. And so a cow has 4 chambers in their stomach and they can eat grass all day, and they have the capacity to ferment it and turn it into a saturated fat, a good fat. But a chicken and a pig, they can't do that. They have one stomach like us. So when we feed them corn and soy, they turn it into a
Mm,
bad fat, which is the omega-6, and then they're an unhealthy animal. And I think that's why
mm.
when we eat them, we don't feel that well. Any ruminant, really, anything with 4 chambers, or even I just found out recently that a camel is a semi-ruminant. They have 3 chambers.
Oh,
I would
didn't
love to
know
get
that.
I'd love to get my hands on some camel meat. I have camel hump fat. I have a jar of it, and I made my fat bombs recently. I posted that on X, and then I was having a conversation with someone about that and found that I always thought that the humps on the camel were filled with water because they're out in the dry
Mm.
desert. But did you know that they're filled with fat?
Yeah, actually, I did know that. Yeah.
You know, I didn't know that. I always thought,
Yeah.
so they're like ketosis storage tanks. They're like a gas tank for ketosis. I
It's
thought that was
pretty
cool,
smart.
right?
Yeah.
What physical or mental changes have you noticed since starting the carnivore diet?
The major physical change I've noticed is that I used to have osteoarthritis in my right knee. I have dealt with it for 9 years. Of course, it didn't start out very severe. It's from an old knee injury, which I had surgery for, and I had some of my meniscus removed. And then I was active for many years, actually around 9, 10 years after my surgery. And then at that point, I started getting um, pain when I was doing like a small jog, maybe like 1.5 mile. I would get like swollen knee and sharp pains, and I just couldn't do it. I couldn't run, and I was 26, and I was like, "What the is going on?" Sorry, my language, but that was really crazy for me. I was like, "What's going on? Like, I'm 26, I can't do this." And it also started being like, if I did a long walk on like uneven terrain, my knee would also start get swollen, and it was just horrible. So I found out that I had that osteoarthritis, and I couldn't really do the sports I used to do. So I found climbing, and I could do climbing without too much pain. So I was very happy about that. And I've just been told many times that there's nothing to do about this. Of course, you could do like physiotherapy, but I have done all those kind of things, and it just it didn't really make a real difference. Um, but since going carnivore, it was only after like, I guess, 3 weeks ish, I started noticing significant reduction in my pain. Like, for example, at jiu-jitsu, we always warm up with like floorball, I think it's called, like a hockey kind of indoor sport. And I did that once at jiu-jitsu training, and I could barely walk for 3 days, and I had severe pain for 5 days. It was only like 15, 20 minutes of that exercise. And I was like, okay, I'm never doing this again. It's just too hard on my knees. I can't do it. And then after those 3 weeks of carnivore, I was at jujitsu again. And then I forgot about the knee because the game was crazy and fun. And I got carried away. And then afterwards, I was like, oh my God, I did it. Like, now I'm going to have so much pain. I was like, but it doesn't really hurt. But okay, we'll see, probably tomorrow. But it never came, like, never, ever. Not again, not the next time, not the next time after that. Like, I can jump down from huge rocks in Fontainebleau climbing, and like, I just don't like I don't have any pain anymore. And I feel like I haven't tried everything that I did before, but I feel like I can do anything. Um, at least I can do floorball, which is pretty amazing. I feel like I can do long walks with like carrying my child. I can squat down and sit next to my kids without having pain and issues getting up. And I know that sounds pretty crazy, but it's just made my quality of life so much better. And I feel like I was kind of getting my head wrapped around like, oh, I'm gonna be older. It's only getting worse with my knee. I probably have like knee surgery or like knee replacement at some point. But now I'm thinking like I probably never have a knee replacement. Like who knows? But it doesn't feel like that anymore. It's just really great. So that's like my main healing, I think, on carnivore on the physical side. Also, I've had next to no allergy symptoms this season, like except for when I had pork. I found that out, so now I'm not eating pork, and then I had no allergy symptoms whatsoever. I used to be on like 3 different medications for allergies, seasonal allergies, and I don't take them now, and I haven't even renewed my prescription. So yeah, it feels pretty great. Um, a pretty great physical benefit as well is that I'm not freezing anymore. Like I used to have like really cold hands and feet, and it would take me hours to warm up if I got cold. I would have trouble falling asleep because my legs were just so cold. But now I feel like I can still get cold if I'm in cold conditions, but it will only take me like 10, 15 minutes to then warm up again, like compared to before, where I just couldn't get warm for like super long time, and it was really frustrating and uncomfortable. I've also noticed I've gotten better skin. Just like my skin looks better, it looks less see-through in some way. I also tan better. Um, I have gotten a lot longer eyelashes, which is pretty weird, but I like it. Um, I used to have eczema on my hands, especially during the winter time when they dry out from the low humidity. And I still have like this winter. I was also a pretty new carnivore back then, but I could stop using my steroid cream, which is a pretty big thing for me. Usually, if I don't use that, I get like tons of small cracks in the skin that bleed, and then it's really painful. So yeah, and now my skin is like it's better than ever. Like even for summertime, it looks really great. I used to have like the first times after a long winter, when I went out into the sun, I would get like kind of like an allergic reaction to the sun. So once the sun hit me, I would get like super red skin, like it would kind of poof my skin, like be all like bumpily and stuff and really itchy. It wasn't really a sunburn because it would go away like within half an hour. But it was like whenever I went out into the sun, my skin would just react for the first few times. And I haven't had that this year. I can go into the sun. I can still get sunburned, I think, if I stay out there too long, but I haven't been carnivore for very long now either. So I think maybe it will get better, but at least no allergic reaction. I've also noticed some changes in my eyes. I used to have really a lot of like those floaters for my eyes. Most of them have gone away. I have only like very few, and actually I haven't got any new ones. So no new ones has come along, and I think that's pretty great. Also, since going keto, so for 2.5 years ago now, my eyesight has improved by 0.75, which means that I've changed glasses and also changed contact lenses. But it's great. It makes my life easier being better at seeing without them. So I hope it will get better with time as well. I used to have very brittle nails. That's gone. I have gotten way wider teeth, stronger teeth, it feels like. Sometimes also I felt like I could like wobble my teeth a little bit too much. I was like worried about that. both on keto and also on my diet before. But now I feel like my teeth are just like a lot better stuck, and they just feel right in some way. Like I've probably been super deficient in some vitamins and minerals since this phenomenon has happened. After having yeah, sorry, it's a really long list. I've experienced so many things. After I had the 3 kids, I've noticed that my abs were just like chronically sore. Um, it was like an intense soreness where I could not have anyone touch my abs. Like my husband could not touch my abs. Like very soft. It was just so painful. I actually went to the doctor to ask, like, what is this? Like, is it like deep tissue damage, or what is it? Like after 3 pregnancies, it's been with between all of them as well. Um, the doctor just couldn't give me any explanation for it. It's gone now. If I have to be honest now, after learning a lot more about like different diseases and stuff, especially with the gut, I think maybe I've had irritable bowel syndrome. I've heard more people say that they be constipated, bloated, having trouble with their stomach in general, and also super sore abs because of all the inflammation around the intestines kind of affect the abs as well. And I've had all those symptoms, but my doctor didn't really see it. Maybe it was because it was in the context of me asking related to pregnancy. But I've had really a lot of issues with my bowel as well, and that's also resolved completely now. Many great things. Yeah, I used to have like really, especially in one side, my lymph node would be like chronically enlarged, not to an extreme degree, but it was just always like a little bit, and like you don't want it that way. But now it has completely calmed down. Unless I'm sick, then it kind of enlarges as it should, and then it calms down again. I don't struggle with dry eyes anymore. I also find that I have gotten a lot of like skin changes, like skin tags, and like small, like round brown spots that kind of bump a little bit. Um, Many of them have actually fallen off, which is pretty weird. I thought they were just there. I still have some of them, but a large number has disappeared. I've also noticed better libido. I think maybe my hormones are just getting more in balance, which is really great. I've never had regular periods and stuff, so I'm hoping that in the future maybe I'll also get a regular period. I think it's a sign of a good and functioning, healthy female body, and I really wish I get that, but I don't know yet. So we'll have to see if the healing continues or if there's just been damage that cannot be undone. I don't know. And then last but not least, on the physical side, I smell a lot less of sweat. I have a lot less body odor. I smell like a human now. It's just not like gross. That's on the physical side.
That's funny that you say that, because when I eat things that I react to, like if I eat pork, I didn't mention it in my list of symptoms, but I will have more body odor depending on what I'm eating. It's not so much the pork, even though it'll do it to me. It's when I go to cocoa butter and the plant kind of things
Mm.
that bother me. So I am so grateful that you put together such a comprehensive list. And I just want to do a quick recap. So since going carnivore, cravings from keto gone, arthritis gone, allergies gone, and allergy meds gone, eczema gone, and eczema meds gone, swollen lymph nodes gone, cold hands and feet gone, post-pregnancy ab soreness gone. And you've also experienced many improvements: improved skin, improved hair, improved eyes, improved teeth, improved sun tolerance, improved libido, and improved body odor. Is there anything that hasn't improved?
No, no, so many things have improved, and I could not like. I think maybe that's actually a really important message. Like I felt like a really healthy, really vibrant person before. I felt like I felt as good as I could. and I was as healthy as I could be. And now I just like trying this out and just giving it a chance. I found out, and it motivated me so much, like with the osteoarthritis going away, like to just keep going, because I was like, what if this can go away? I mean, like I've been told so many times, like there's nothing to do, and now it's just gone. Like what else? What else will happen? And just so many things happens. I mean, now it doesn't happen at the same pace anymore, but I still notice like once in a while, like, oh my God, like I'm not really bothered by this anymore, or this is not an issue, or I feel even more energetic, or like so many different things. And that's just really great.
It is really great. If you listen to some long-time carnivores talk, like my first guest, Brett, he's coming up on 6 years, and he says the improvements keep on coming. He's 6 years in.
Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Next, let's talk about how has carnivore impacted your athletic performance?
You know, I'm mostly like an athlete in the sense that I do exercise, and I'm not like a pro athlete. I think that's pretty important to just establish. I have been pretty serious about climbing, like climbed 12 hours a week approximately before I was pregnant with my first child, and reached a decent level of climbing. Nothing like international or anything, but like still pretty decent. And I can't really get back to that level right now because I don't have the time simply to like put into it. I can't exercise 12 hours a week. That's just like not possible now with 3 kids and job and everything. But the way it has impacted my physical performance in sports is like I can do so much more now because I don't have pains restricting me. I feel like my body is just functioning properly. I feel like I have so much energy when I'm training. I almost never feel like I don't want to go today. Like I'm like, oh my God, it's my night to go training. Like I really want to go exercise. It's not like I wasn't motivated before, but it's just like I really feel like a desire to move and um, yeah, just kind of like get stuff going. It's really a great feeling with the body. Um, yeah, I also feel in some way that I only right now I only climb once a week, and then sometimes twice with like an extra family climbing session on Saturdays. But I feel like I can exercise less and still maintain my same like level of performance. It's not really a super high level at the moment. I also, yeah, my youngest is 1 year old, so it's not so long since I had him. But I think those are like the main things about carnivore that's affected my athletic performance.
That's amazing. The part you said about being able to maintain your muscle, your strength without having to do much, that's also a common thread for those in the audience that know Dr. Anthony Chafee. If you look at him, he's the plant-free MD, by the way. I love it when he says that plants are trying to kill you. But if you look at him, he's really muscular, and you would think that he's working out like 5 times a week in the gym. And
Mm,
you listen to him on a podcast, and I'll tell you, he barely even has time to work out anymore, but he just eats steak all day and he maintains his muscle. It's
yeah.
very common.
Yeah, I also feel like I think I've gained muscle mass. Like my if I measure my waist, it's gone down, but I've gained weight. I lost some initial weight on carnival, and then I gained some of it back, but my waist has just gotten smaller. So I feel like I'm maybe losing belly fat and then just gaining muscle. I feel like my arms and my legs are feeling really muscular. And it's not like I've been strong before, so it's not like uncommon for me, but it's just compared to like me just getting out of a pregnancy and not being able to move so much. And I think it's just, it has made a difference.
So when I was doing
Yeah.
research for the show, I was going through your Twitter feed, and there's a
Hmm.
picture of you where you're climbing on a sideways rock. Are you familiar with
Hmm.
that picture? Are you okay with me
Yes.
sharing?
Yeah. Yeah.
On the screen right here, we see a picture of Tinne, and look at her. She's like a beast climbing on
Hmm.
this rock. Let me make it
Yeah.
full screen. Oh,
That was me.
nope, I screwed it up. Hold on. There it is. There's the full screen picture. Look at her. And you can see she's got muscle in her arms and her back, and you could tell that she's sitting strong. And she's here telling you that since she went carnivore, she's gotten even more muscular with less workout. That's
Yeah.
great.
I have to say also, this picture is also from when I did a lot of exercise, and I was stronger back then than I am now, but I am still like having a
Yeah,
pretty decent
look at you.
arm. Um, so, I mean, yeah, I could do more pull-ups then, but I'm still pretty strong for being a mom. And I think I'm still a lot stronger if you compare like how little exercise I do. Really, I'm pretty strong. And also at my workplace, my boss is like, "Oh, Tina, can you get this?" I'm like, "Sure." Lifting it up, no worries. And all the other females just struggling to like push it around. So yeah, I feel like I have a really strong body right now. I feel very confident in it. That's pretty great.
I can relate to the confidence that comes along with feeling strong, and it's
Mm,
just a great feeling. You feel more at peace with your body. You feel more like your body is one whole piece functioning as one, right?
yeah,
I can relate to that. Can you talk about some of the
exactly.
mental benefits that you've experienced since going carnivore? Now, to be clear, you never suffered from mental illness like me and like
Mm.
my first guest, Brett, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Okay.
No, I never had any illness, mental illness, but I still noticed, I think, pretty significant improvements in my mental health. As I also said earlier, I felt like I was a really happy, energetic person before, but I feel like now I have even more energy. I feel like I have a much happier mood in general. I have a much more stable mood. When I was on a regular diet, I would be hangry so many times a day, and I would be a horrible wife for my husband. When I came home, I would like nag on him and be like really irritated by everything he did until I had something to eat. Then I was like, it was all resolved. And now we kind of like skip all those like hangry moments, and I'm just like I am the rest of the time, all the time. Which is really nice for me, which is really nice for him, which is really nice for the kids. Um, and it doesn't really make you happy to like be a bad person. So it's just more fun to have more yeah, much more happy and stable mood. I also feel like before I could get very emotional, and like my emotions could like take over a bit of like uh of my thinking. Like I could like I really had a tendency to overthink and worry excessively. Not like a diagnosis, but still, like it would interrupt my sleep. Like I couldn't fall asleep because I was just laying there worrying for hours, waking up at night, dreaming about stuff like all sorts of things that were like out of my hands. I couldn't do anything about it. I couldn't like just let it go and like not think about it. And now I feel like I can worry about things, I can be sad about things, but it's like I'll be sad about it for a little while, and then I'll think, can I do something about it or can I not? And if I can do something about it, I'll do it. And if I can't, I'll just let it go. And it's just as simple as that. And it's been a huge relief. Like before, it was just yeah, in period, like in some at some times it would be more, at sometimes it would be less, but sometimes it's definitely been like a few times a week where I felt like that. And now I just don't feel like that at all. Like I am not overthinking, I am not over worrying at all. I worry if there's something to worry about and be practical about it. um, it's not, my head is not like spinning out of control in some way. It feels like I got the control, and that feels really amazing. It releases a lot of energy as well for other purposes than just walking around worrying about all sorts of weird stuff that's really not anything I can do anything about. I have a really weird thing that's improved mentally. It's that I used to have like intense anxiety of birds, and since I was young, my mom also suffered from this, and this is something that I also suffered from. Thrown myself on the street to avoid a bird flying. I've screamed. I have avoided them. I have. If I sit on like a cafe, if the bird came close, I like couldn't relax. I had to like all the time to like get them away from me. And now I just don't feel scared of birds. And it's like I realized it because we were talking about getting chickens because we want to have our own eggs. And then I was like, yeah, but I'm scared of birds, so we probably can't do that. And then I was like thinking about it. I was like, what if I imagined myself being next to a bird? Like, what would happen? Like, what if I had a chicken in my yard? How would I feel? And I was like, yeah, I think I'll feel pretty great. And then we kind of played around with the thought a little bit, and I kind of noticed, like, if I was out in the garden and there was a bird there, would I be scared? No, I actually wouldn't. And then we decided to get the chickens. And the same day we bought the chickens, I just took it up and held it. And I was like, yeah, I'm fine. Like, but super proud and super overwhelmed in some way. Like, I could just do it. And I felt so good and like no anxiety feeling. So I feel like in general, like a very calm mind, less anxious of different things, also less anxious of delivering like weird news about being a carnivore to friends and stuff at my workplace and all these kind of things. I just feel pretty calm and good.
That's really amazing. I love hearing this coming from someone who didn't suffer mental health issues. You were just what I'd call a regular, normal person. You had
Yeah.
some anxiety, you had some worrying. That would be like my wife. She worries a lot. Say we have a barbecue coming up for the days leading up to it. She's going to be trying to fall asleep at night and she's thinking about all the things she needs to prepare. And for
Mm.
somebody like her, if she's listening to Brett tell his story, she might not be tuning in as keenly, but if she's listening to you, she can probably relate to you better. And I think it's a more powerful message.
I definitely hope it will inspire others to, yeah, if they think like, oh, it's not so bad, well, maybe it can get a lot better. And it's just, it feels like such a small thing to do, like to change the way you eat. And it has so many more benefits. Like, yeah, right now I just can't really imagine my life without carnivore. It's just already feeling so natural and I get so many great things from it. I have no motivation to eat other stuff. It's just, it feels really easy.
It's great when life is easy. So I want to recap the mental benefits. You were happy before. You didn't have any issues. You thought life was great. You are much more happy now. You're more stable now. You're more calm now. You're less emotional. You have less overthinking, less over worrying, no more head spinning, and your bird anxiety, which is called ornithophobia, is
Mm.
resolved, and you have more energy.
Yeah. And also one last thing, I used to like think my body, even though it has looked very athletic and very nice, like a good looking body, I would still at many times be like very conscious about the way I look, like not feel like it was good enough. I feel very at peace with my body right now, even though it's not at its thinnest, it's not at its fittest. It's just I just feel like it's doing a pretty good job, and I feel like I look great and feel good in my body. So I'm not really talking bad about it to myself anymore, which is like I think the last mental benefit. But I think a lot of women do that to themselves a lot of the time, and it has just resolved itself.
That's also amazing. I know for
Yeah.
me, when I'm off, I explained in my first podcast when I was with Connor that when I'm off, I hate myself. I hate how I look. I hate how I
Mm.
feel. I see myself in the mirror and I hate what I see. And I've gone through great lengths, like by getting tattoos and all this stuff and growing my hair long and then shaving it and all the different facial hair just to trying to change my appearance. And when I'm on, like all that melts away. And I won't say that I necessarily like what I see, but when I look at myself in the mirror, I'm like, oh, I'm all right. I don't have that thought like, I hate this guy. I need to make a change. I do the same shave every time. I keep shaving my head. I just keep the same look. When I'm off, I
Mm.
am constantly changing how I look to try to feel better. And that
Mm.
just all melts away when I'm doing the diet right.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a good example of it. I don't think I had it to that extreme, but still, like, just talking bad about yourself, it's just not, or like thinking, oh my god, this tiny little bump on my belly and blah blah blah, and it's just so minor. Like, why use all that energy on something so minor? Like, you look great, you're healthy and good, um but now I just truly feel healthy and good, and so it doesn't really matter so much, like if I have a tiny bump somewhere, or just like I feel like this is the right thing to do and it's the right direction I'm moving in. And if I'm supposed to look better than this, it will probably happen. If not, this is it.
That's great. Now, while I think my message is important and powerful, I think it resonates with someone who has suffered from mental illness, because if it can, if the diet can do that for me, it's very powerful. It can do it for other people with mental illness. But here you are,
Yeah.
a regular, normal person without that depth of mental illness. And I'm hoping that the people in our audience are going to listen, and they're going to tune into what you're saying and how much improvement you've seen from this.
I hope they will too.
One of the things we spoke about when we were prepping was your previous alcohol consumption and how that has changed. You want to talk about that?
Hmm. Sure. Yeah, when I was young, I partied a lot. I drank a lot. Once I started wanting to get pregnant, I kind of took it down and stopped drinking in that time. When I was still partying, I started feeling after some years that it just wasn't, actually, it's a lot of years, because in Denmark you start drinking really young, like seriously way too young. Like in my early teenage years, alcohol is legal in Denmark for young kids. I think it was down to 14 when I was a kid, and now it's 16 for most alcohols. So there's a huge culture for drinking and drinking a lot. And it just made me sometimes feel really sad the day after, just like doing tons of stuff you regret. It's kind of fun just in the moment when you do it, but it's just in the long run. And also once I started getting older, I felt like there wasn't really any purpose to it. It was just kind of filling in some kind of gap of maybe needing some purpose, maybe needing some children to make everything make sense. Yeah, so I did alcohol for a long time. Then, as I said, when I wanted to be pregnant with my husband. I stopped drinking, and then I've only had a little bit of alcohol for special occasions between the pregnancies. So I didn't really drink while I was pregnant, which is good, I guess. And I was never really addicted to it, but I feel like it's just such a big part of our culture, and you get kind of socially pushed to do it. And if you don't do it, you're kind of not in the game with all the fun with all the other kids. But it's just not like, I think I just realized at some point it's just not truly fun anymore. And it just makes me feel crap the day after. It makes me feel sad. It got to the point where I also started like not remembering when I was drunk. So if I got drunk and it was only like after 3 beers maybe, I just couldn't remember what I did the day after. Like I had complete blackout. And that's also really scary. Like what's happened to me, like what is going on. Yeah. And then you also don't remember the fun, which made it even less meaningful to go drinking. So I drank a lot less since having kids. And then after going carnivore, I had 3 drinks New Year's Eve. And I just felt like the next 3 weeks when I went to jiu-jitsu and climbing, I just felt like I could not perform the way I used to. Like I felt like my energy was lower. I felt just more tired. I felt like, yeah, I just felt like I wasn't functioning properly as I should be. And I mean, think about like all the alcohol I drank before. It's just been like massive, massive amounts. Like I can't even, it's just horrible that I've exposed myself to that. But it's like I didn't think about like what the consequences could be. But then I decided after that New Year's Eve and those 3 weeks of trying to do like my normal exercises and feeling horrible, I was just like, yeah, I don't think I'm doing alcohol again, because like I didn't really get much from it. And it's like when you eliminate everything else and you feel so optimal, and then I do like try alcohol, and it's like, yeah, it was nice to drink, but it wasn't that fun. And then I just have to suffer for 3 weeks. It was just like, that is totally not worth it. Like it doesn't make no sense to me. So like if I ever truly feel like drinking again, maybe I'll take a glass of wine, but it's like I doubt it. But you should never say never with anything. Because I also once made a vow that I would never stop eating homemade white buns with butter, and now I, I don't eat them. So things change. You get be less wrong, right? So that's what happens when you learn stuff.
I think it's interesting to note that you didn't suffer from mental illness, but when you drank alcohol, you would feel sadness. Because I'm someone who suffered from bipolar and depression for 30 years, and alcohol would make me terribly sad. It's one of the worst things that
Mm,
I can possibly do. Since I've changed my diet, I used to drink like you. I used to party when I was younger, but since I've changed my diet, I've had a little bit here and there. We'll be at a family function and there'll be like a cool beer. And I remember in my mind, I remember how good that used to be. And I'll take a couple of sips. And if I have a sip or two, it's really not a big deal. But if I have more than a couple of sips, even if it's just tasting a couple of beers, if I have
mm,
enough that I can feel it, it only takes
mm,
for me, it only takes a couple of sips and I feel it and I feel a little bit of a buzz. I know that night and the next day, I'm not going to be myself. I'm going to be sad. My dreams may be affected that night. And it takes a couple of days.
mm,
I can hear people like my mother right now saying, well, you took the alcohol out, you went carnivore. What do you think is going to happen when you put it back in? You created this sensitivity by taking it out. And I would argue against that. People don't want to hear this, but alcohol is a poison. And the effects that we get is your body processing the poison out of your body. It's really not
yeah,
meant to be like a consumable thing. It's not meant to be food. So if you were in the past when you were partying on a 1 to 10 scale, you were living your life at a 5. You drank, you probably went to a 4. You're not really feeling, you're not as good, but you're not feeling much. You go
mm,
carnivore. Now all of a sudden you're a 10. You drink on New Year's, you may have dropped down to like a 7 or a 6. That's like
yeah,
half. So you're going to feel the effects. You didn't just suddenly create this sensitivity. That's always going to be there and your
mm.
body's processing the poison. That's why it would have taken 3 weeks for you to get back, and that's a common story.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, like once you eliminate all like the inflammation, all the poisons and stuff, and like whatever else is put in your body, it just feels stuff much better. Like you get heightened sense of smell. Like I feel like I felt my body pretty well before, but I feel it even better now. Like small things like, oh, this is kind of like maybe am I about to get a cold or not? Like I can feel like the smallest sign from my body, and also from like eating different foods, pork, chicken, other stuff. Also, sometimes I usually avoid spices, but if I do have them once in a while, there's also like an instant payback. That's not good for me. At least not now. I get bloated. I get irritated in my stomach. I get sometimes stomach pain. I fart. Like it's just uncomfortable. And if I avoid that, it's just not an issue. So it's not really like when people say, "Oh, you can use spices to like, yeah, spice it up." It's like, yeah, it's not really spicing it up for me. It's kind of like making it really not fun. So if we're at a friend's house and they made something with spices specifically for us, I'll eat it, and it's not like a big deal. I'll have a bit of stomach issues for a day or two, but then if I can choose myself, I won't do it.
It's the same thing for me. And so when I have the high fat beef only, this is my take on a combination of a therapeutic ketogenic diet and the lion
Mm,
diet, which is the lion diet is ruminant meat, salt, and water. I don't include the salt in here because I don't consider salt a spice or a seasoning. It's an essential mineral, it's an electrolyte. So that's all I'm going to use. I'm the same as you, where if I have spices, I'm going to have issues. When I talk to somebody new who's never heard of carnivore before, they're like, so wait, so you just eat meat? So okay, so you're having like some kind of sauce on the side, and how do you season it? Well, no, I don't season it. I like the meat. I
yeah.
like the taste of the meat. I am fortunate that I love every bite of every meal, and my meals are a big pile of fat and a small pile of meat with a bunch of salt on it. And I eat a lot of my stuff mostly raw. I do cook. I've been enjoying putting steaks on the grill, but it's just salt and meat, and that's optimal. And people want to know, well, how can you do that? It sounds so boring, but this is how I feel my best. I want to be a 10 plus, and that's what I can
Mm,
be when I do the diet right. If I were to add in some kind of pepper or seasoning, it might taste good in the moment, but I'm going to go down to a 9 or an 8. And unfortunately for me, when I get knocked down is when my irritability comes out. And then I'm no longer a decent husband or a competent father. That's what tends to go first is my irritability. And I'm happy. I like the salt. That's all I need.
yeah, exactly. And I also think like it's like you get you get used to it. It's not like in a bad way. It's more like your body realizes that this is what it needs and it craves that. And it's not
We're at an hour and 12. You want to take a break for a minute? Do you want to get up and stretch? You want to just keep going?
no, it's fine. Let's just keep going.
All right. Next up, we're going to talk about your family and your kids. How did you introduce
Yeah.
the carnivore diet to your family, especially your children?
Yeah. So as I said, it was actually my husband who introduced the carnivore diet to our family, and then I adapted it, and then we together kind of, yeah, took the whole family into it. We started by when my husband started carnivore, we all started eating more meat. Also, me being on a ketogenic or a normal keto diet, but eating more meat, and also the kids started eating more meat. We also took their lunches and turned up the meat in them, and put less carbs and less fruit and veg in there. But they were still kind of like still keto, not carnivore yet. Then we changed the dinners because once I went carnivore, I didn't really want to prepare lots of vegetables and stuff, because the kids, they like it, but they didn't really ask for it either, you know? So we just started being like, oh, so now this is dinner, and tonight we're just having this like hamburger patties or like a big pork leg or steaks or whatever we were having. And in the beginning, the kids were asking a lot of questions and being like, oh, is there nothing else? And we were like, no, this is just it. And talking about like how it's good for us and nutritious. And uh, when we were keto, we were also talking a lot to kids about how healthy vegetables were. And I think you just have to be honest with your kids and just say like, oh, we were just wrong. Like we just didn't know enough back then. Like now we know more. It's not like vegetables are bad, but it's just like this is just better. Like, and that's why we eat it. That's why we want to be like the best that we can be. So that's why we do this. And then we did that for quite a few months in that sense. But our one of our kids had lunch provided in her daycare. So I don't think she was in ketosis at that point, but my other kid, who's a little older, he had his own lunch brought with him to kindergarten, and he got into ketosis, and that's been really great for him. I feel like we also see some good changes now with our middle child, who's now in kindergarten and get her lunch with her from home. Our youngest has never been other things than carnivore. Like he has had milk from me, and then he's tried. I think I gave him some like applesauce, like homemade applesauce, twice, but he wasn't really like digging it. And we were like, oh, is it too crazy to do it with a baby? And like, how are we doing it and stuff? And we just went for it, just tried it out, and did like big chunks of steak. He was sitting there like biting off of them, and he just loves those kind of foods. Like he loves eggs, he loves beef, he loves red beef a lot, and he'll eat it all. I think it's very interesting because like with my other kids, when they were starting to transition from being breastfed to solid foods, they kind of had to learn to like the food. And that's also what you're told by the nurses that visit your house and kind of counsel you on food and development and stuff. And they are just like, oh, but sure they don't like broccoli, and sure they don't like porridge, but they just have to learn to like it. Like they have to taste things at least like 10 to 12 times, and then they'll get to it. Like they have to learn it. And it's just like now it just seems so wrong. Like it seems so unnatural to like have an animal and it has to learn to like its proper nutrition. It's just like you don't see sheep or cows or whatever other animal or tigers like being like, oh, I want to eat the lettuce instead of the animal. Like no, the tiger knows what it's supposed to eat and it likes it. And that's been my experience, at least with our youngest. He's just like, he likes his food instantly. He likes everything about it and all the weird parts and all the fat. And he's just like, he just loves it and loved it from day one. So he was really easy, you could say, to transition. Then in April this year, I went on a long vacation with my family to France for 4 weeks. It was a climbing trip. And there we decided before going, but we kind of rolled it out that now the whole family was going to be 100% carnivore, because it was a good opportunity being like away from all the distractions and being mostly us together, also being in the woods, being outdoors, having fun stuff to do, like nice distractions, if anything like annoying happened with a diet and stuff. And it went really well. I mean, you could feel like maybe the first like 7, 10 days, sometimes they would get a little more tired. Sometimes they would be a little more irritable. Um, but it was really not much. I mean, compared to like normal kid troubles and meltdowns and whatever, it was close to normal, I would say, maybe a little bit. But it went really well. And I think what has helped is that we have let them have pretty much anything within the carnivore diet that they like. So my one kid, he just loves steaks. Like this, his favorite thing, like really red, like medium rare steaks. That's his favorite thing. He has that every day. And then he will have steak for breakfast, steak for lunch, and then he will have steak for dinner,
I love.
as like his main meal. So he's really excited about that. My girl, she really likes eggs and ground beef, also likes bacon and shrimp. And we make sure that we have like lots of foods in that category. And then they can just like, I ask them every morning, what do you want for breakfast? And then they can just choose and we make whatever they want within that limit. But normally everybody eats kind of the same. So if my daughter wants eggs and bacon, I'll also have eggs and bacon, just probably in my lunchbox and bring it for work. So it doesn't really make cooking harder. It just makes it more, I think it motivates the kids because they get what they like the best and it's still super nutritious and good food. And yeah, if they eat beef all day, I'm just really, that's perfect.
Oh yeah. I just want to say I think you're doing an amazing job as a parent and you're setting your children up for a long, successful, and healthy life. It's great. I don't know the cultural differences, but do you guys do high fives over there? You know what a high five is?
Yeah.
I want you to give your husband a high five from me for spearheading this whole thing. Cause look at the influence he's had on you
Yeah.
and your family. And now look, you're going to have an influence on our audience as well.
Yeah. It's crazy. I mean, he really deserves a medal and a huge kiss and just a round of applause. He's just like, he's great. And
He does.
he did something really great for us.
All of your children are very lucky, but your youngest is probably the luckiest. The thought that it's crazy to do this with a baby, I could just imagine certain people in my life and they would be like, "Oh my gosh, you can't have a baby be a carnivore. How are they going to grow?"
Yeah.
The proof there is, like you said, you have to teach the baby to like the broccoli. And
Mhm.
they're so in tune with their bodies and it's all instinct at that point. And the fact that
Yeah.
the baby loves the meat and the fatty meat and even the red meat, it tells you that that baby is eating its natural diet. And I love how you pointed out for other animals, you don't have to teach them to like their natural diet. It's just part of their instincts.
Mm.
They know what to do.
That's actually been very helpful for me, thinking more about us humans as an animal. Just thinking, is it natural for all the animals to like, yeah, get to know, get to learn to eat their food? Is it natural for them to think that other animals within their species stink? No, it's not. Like, there are just so many things. Like, it's just not meant to be that way. We're just a regular animal, just like any other animal. And if we eat an improper diet, so many things happen that's unnatural to us. And now it's just been super normalized and naturalized, but it's really not natural. It's been so mind blowing to me. And I feel like still maybe once a week I have like an epiphany and be like, what? Also this? Oh my God, I can't believe it. Like, this is also a lie, or this is like, this is just not right. Or yeah, it's just, it just keeps coming, and I think it'll keep coming for quite some time.
I couldn't agree with you more. And one of the points I wanted to make about, is it crazy to do this for a baby? Well, a baby is just a small human.
Yeah.
We're doing it for large humans and we're all having success and thriving. So why wouldn't you do it for a small human too? I really like to look at the science aspect of it. And I try to imagine or learn about what our ancestors would have done, but there's a lot of unknowns there. We don't really know exactly.
Mm,
But if you just look at us like animals, yeah, well, we're domesticated. We're living in houses with air conditioning and we're walking around with shoes on. And the way we live is not like a human. We're living a standard American lifestyle. We're living like Americans. We're not living like human beings. The things that we do are not appropriate
mm,
for our bodies if we were
mm.
out in nature. And I think that's important. I think that's why carnivore works so well, because it's our natural diet. It's appropriate for our bodies.
Yeah, totally agree.
What are your future plans and goals with the carnivore diet and your athletic pursuits?
I hope I can just maintain like good function, like the way I feel now, like still have a good knee that I can do everything I want with. I want to keep like going for like 4 weeks climbing trips with my family and not having any issues. Um, I would really love to just climb somewhere as well. That would be amazing, but I just don't, yeah, have the time to like put that much into it. Um, I also still have the white belt in jiu-jitsu, and
Nice.
I'm planning on at Christmas. I hope to get the yellow belt, which is the first one. I hope Carnivore will still provide me with good energy and like healthy, good working body, and like yeah, just give me lots of benefits from like exercising and getting like a lot of muscle gain and stuff. That would be pretty amazing.
What about sprinting? I feel like it's so important that we should spend a few minutes on that. I was so psyched when I
Yeah,
saw that you posted that. Let's talk about sprinting.
yeah, it was. It started in my beginning of my carnivore journey. I watched quite a few of Dr. Shonomaru's videos. My husband also watched some of them. Actually, I think it was Dr. Shonomaru who kind of was the gateway for my husband to really get into carnivore, because he's like carnivore with fermented foods as well. And
Right.
we did on the keto diet, we did a lot of home fermentation and stuff of our veggies to improve microbiome and stuff. I think once he watched Dr. Shonomaru's videos, he also was exposed to some more pure carnivore videos, and then it all rolled from there. But so I saw some of his videos on visceral fat and sprinting, and I tried it for maybe a month or two. And I actually, now that I think about it, that was actually the time when I lost weight on carnivore, when I was doing the sprinting as well. And then when I stopped it for a while, because I also started jujitsu and stuff, I gained some weight back. So maybe they're related. I don't know. But right now it's summer break in Denmark, and all my regular sports are kind of on low, or either low or closed. So I thought like, oh, I should really do some sprinting again. And I felt like for some time I've been thinking about doing it again, because it just makes me so happy. Like I also did lots and lots of sprinting when I was young. I did track and fields and was just a super good sprinter. And it just reminds me of that. It gives me that same feeling and kick as I had when I was just those like 14 years old and just really running crazy. I've done it now, and I got really sore thighs. So for me, that thing about like not being sore on carnivore is not really a thing. But I mean, I haven't sprinted for a while, so it makes sense. But I am really keen to go again, and I think it's a super quick and super smart way to exercise. It gives you great benefits within very short time, and it's very efficient when you have a family. You can also do it just out on the sidewalk. You don't have to like go somewhere specific to do it, which I think is really great. I mean, just with like busy life and stuff.
Yeah, and no equipment needed either. I explained in my podcast that I've got a gym down in my basement. I've got a ton of equipment. I have everything you could possibly imagine if you went to a gym. And I haven't, for the last year, I haven't really touched any of it. I just sprint, and I love the benefits. I love how fun it is. I love that I can push myself. And some of the things you said, it's quick, it's easy, it's big bang for your buck. I have a bike path right out front,
Mm,
and I go run on the bike path, I'm done in like 15 minutes, and huge,
Yeah.
amazing benefits. And still to this day, I'll get soreness in my triceps, and I get it all over my body. I get it in my abs. I get it all over as if I did a full body workout when I really push myself.
Mm.
However, I haven't gotten a single injury. I've gotten the soreness that I appreciate, but I haven't gotten any kind of nagging injuries like I would if I was barbell lifting or all the things I've done in the past that really, really trash my body. So as well as pushing the carnivore message, I want to keep pushing the sprinting because I want to see people get out there and do it. When I first heard Sean talking about it, I was thinking to myself, I'm not a sprinter. I can run. I'm athletic and I've done 5Ks and I can run, but I can't sprint. I'm picturing Usain Bolt on a track. And that's not what sprinting has to be. I just want to let people know sprinting is just running fast for your body,
Mm.
and whatever speed and effort that is, you start out slow, you increase your speed gradually on the run, and it's just running fast for your body. And I think the reason that it works so well is because as a human, if we were in the wild, that sprinting is going to be one of the things we're going to do. We're either going to be running after our prey to get a meal, or we're going to be running from some kind of a threat and we're going to sprint. We're not going to go for a long jog. Omara will tell you he's doing MRIs on people and he's scanning their visceral fat. And the people that continue to do slow, long distance running, their visceral fat doesn't go anywhere. It
Mm.
stays.
Yeah.
If we were moving from one place to another, we would walk and we would conserve our energy. And then if there was a threat, we would run as fast as we could to get away from it. Or if there was some prey, we would run as fast as we could. We would never just go out for a leisurely jog like you see people doing. So
Mm.
sprinting, I think, is just very appropriate for our bodies as human beings. And that's why it works so well.
That makes so much sense, I think. It really does. It's a great way of exercising. I think I'm not sure if it was Anthony Chafee who also commented on some Aborigines footprints they found in Australia, where they could measure kind of like the strides, how long they were and stuff. Then they could measure how fast they ran. And they were three men, I guess, or three persons running in wet clay, and they ran at the same speed as Usain Bolt. And it's just like our ancestors has just been crazy at running, and
Wow.
we could get much better, but I mean, like, we have huge potential for being super fast runners. It's been so important for the way we have gathered our food and also for survival, as you said, I'm pretty sure. So that's just, it's pretty crazy, right? Yeah, I think sprinting is good for us. It's like in our genes to do it.
That is crazy, and I'm glad you shared it because as I'm imagining what our ancestors did, I always wonder, how can I emulate that the best that I can? And so one of the things that I've really come to enjoy is I love fasting. I've been doing fasting for a long time, but I don't push it. And there'll be days where, like today, I'm just not that hungry. It's in the middle of the day here. When we're done, I have stuff to do.
Mm,
I'm most likely not going to eat today, and I'm going to be okay. So what I'll do is I'll wake up tomorrow. I'm sure I'll be hungry, and I'll go run my
mm,
sprint on like a 42-hour fast. And what I've come to really enjoy is eating immediately after. So as soon as I'm done, in the old days, I used to want to cool down and I would eat later. But I just wonder if our ancestors, we
mm,
wouldn't have a supermarket, obviously, because we're living in the wild. So we wouldn't have constant food. We may eat a big meal and then it may be a couple of days before we have another meal. And so now we're fasted and now we have to sprint after our prey. And we
mm,
probably, I imagine we would just eat it right away. I don't know. It just seems to work really well for me. But I've always wondered, I wonder how fast our ancestors were or how much sprinting we could endure or tolerate
mm,
back then. And then I also imagine that at some point, our ancestors, we'd be running after prey and we just wouldn't catch it and we just wouldn't be
mm,
able to eat that day. So I have thrown in a couple times where I'll run my sprints and then I don't eat for the rest of the day, or at least
mm,
I'll wait, 6, 8 hours when it works for my schedule. I just like to try to
mm,
emulate things. So it's cool that you brought that up about how fast they were, that they were
mm.
running as fast as Usain Bolt. That's very
Yeah,
cool.
yeah. That is very cool. And it makes really good sense to like try to do things the way that we evolved to do, because I feel like as modern humans, we feel like we have kind of skipped by evolution. Like, oh, we don't need to do things the way that we were supposed to do. Like now we could just use medicine and do all these kind of other things and like exercise the way we want. But really, evolution is just very, very, very slow process, and things don't change rapidly. And we are very much, not completely, but very much the same humans as we were before the agricultural revolution. And and that means that we should try to if we want to live and thrive the best that we can, try to get as many things into our life as it was back then. And that's also like being outside in the sun, getting some sun exposure, grounding, feeling the ground underneath your feet, sleeping in a dark room, and like so many things that you can like just turn around in your life, which makes it more appropriate for the species that we are.
You just listed off some of the crazy, wacky things that I do. Yep, the grounding, the barefoot walking. I've been wearing barefoot
Yeah.
shoes. I've taken it so many steps further. We're trying to avoid EMS. We don't have Wi-Fi in the house anymore. I do some crazy things. We're trying to avoid polyesters. I wear cotton now. I don't do polyesters, and we try to avoid plastics, especially with our food. So it's all these things that would just be the most appropriate for our bodies.
Yeah, I think so many other things as well come with Carnivore. We also started making our own soaps, our own shampoo, also changing all the containers to glass or stainless steel.
Right.
Yeah, just sunscreen, and like there's just so many things that once
Yeah.
you kind of notice that there are chemicals in everything and just affect you. And it's not necessarily that you will feel bad if you use sunscreen right now, but if there are known carcinogens in them, you might not, like if you don't get sunburned, you might not need the sunscreen with the carcinogens, or you can make your own. Like so also with the toothpaste and all those, like with is it called fluoride in
Fluoride.
English?
Yeah.
Maybe. Yeah.
Yes.
It's just not good for you. Also, like trying to filter the water, like there are just many things that one can look at. And I think some people think that this is very excessive, but it feels like just kind of natural to maybe not want those chemicals in your life. And if you just make small adjustments, you don't have to think about it all the time. So it's not like I'm walking around worrying about like, oh my God, what's in this water? I can't drink it. No, I'll drink the water. Like, but if I have the chance and it's easy to just change some small things, and I then know it will probably make my life or the outcome of my health better, then I'll do it. Like, why wouldn't I do it? Like, I would be stupid not to do it. That's how I feel about it anyway. So we do a lot of those, like, I guess, weird things as well. Yeah.
I love it. I couldn't agree with you more. One of my things I say is that we strive for perfection to help guide us, but we're not perfect. We just do the best that we can. And so if I can make my own toothpaste like I do for Samantha and I make my own toothpaste. I make my own deodorant. It's simple and easy. You don't have to worry about chemicals. You know what's going into it. If I'm ordering a shirt for my show and I can order 100% cotton, well, I'm just going to order the 100% cotton shirt. I haven't gotten rid of all that polyester. I did get rid of most of it, but you got to be reasonable. I kayak in big dangerous water, and I can't wear cotton on the water because cotton kills when you're in cold water. So I have my polyester and stuff. I don't go crazy with it. And like you said, with the containers, we keep most of our food in glass. But I buy my steaks and they're coming in styrofoam and plastic, and then I'm vacuum sealing it in plastic. I have a freezer full of. What are you going to do? I really don't have a choice. So I'm not dogmatic about it. I just do the best that I can.
Yeah, it's not everything that there is a good solution to, but the things that you can change and which is not too big a worry to change, at least we try to change them. But sure, we also have things vacuumed in plastic, and it's just really hard to avoid. But I feel like it's more like of a percentage thing. Like if we can avoid most of it, it's also better than like having all of it. So
exactly. Are we ready to roll into some of the closing questions?
I actually have one thing about the food for the kids that I'd like to say, if I can. Yeah.
Go ahead.
Regarding like making stuff a bit easier with the food for the kids, we have tried to like get some foods that look a bit more like the other kids' foods. Not to completely like substitute it and say like, oh, this is real bread, or like, but it's more like they can maybe better relate to what our kids are eating, and maybe our kids won't feel as different. That's what I hope. So for example, making like carnivore flatbread, which is really easy. They can have that with butter, or they can have that with ham, or they can have it with pate, or whatever they feel like having it with. I also make carnivore or like animal based pizza, which is like a cheese and egg crust, and then we put a tiny bit of tomato and some oregano and sometimes some pepperoni and stuff on, of good quality, of course. We also found some good sausages online, which is like 100% meat and spices, so no like weird additives or any flour of any kind, which I think is a pretty great product, from like free range organic beef and pork. So I think just like putting some of that in their lunch boxes makes them feel a bit more like the other kids, even though I am well aware that they eat a lot different. And of course it stands out. Like we cannot go around that. Of course it stands out. But they can also say like, oh, I also have pizza and it looks like a pizza. And the other, like, if you don't know the difference, you won't tell. So yes, they have steak in their box, but they also have something that the other kids can kind of relate to. Or they can have a little bit of strawberries from the garden, which they pick themselves and put in there. And I mean, they're probably more like carnivore, ketovore ish, depends on the day. Sometimes they also have like complete carnivore lunch boxes, but I think just like trying to go a bit of an extra mile for my kids, I hope it makes it a bit easier for them with the food. Because for me, I would be fine with just ground beef or steak and eggs every day, like no variation, just the same for every meal if I have more. I also remember we went to like a social gathering with a kindergarten, like a summer party with a buffet, a buffet where everybody like brings dishes, and I'm thinking like, oh, what are we bringing? And so we made a bunch of chicken legs, and I also brought some of the carnival pizza. I didn't put the pizza on the table. I put the chicken legs on the table, and my kids could have that or any of the other meats also on the table. And then there were lots of pizzas, and I knew that in advance. So I made sure that we had some extra pizza that other people didn't take, so my kids also could eat their pizza next to the other kids. I feel like it helps the process a little bit, but I also think that it's expected that they don't necessarily think that every situation they be in is very easy, and also it is something that we as adults has that we have decided for them. So of course sometimes they think it sucks, but most days it seems like they really don't mind, and they have really, like, if I ask them what you want to eat, they're like, oh, we want steak. Like they don't ask for like Cheerios or porridge or spaghetti or anything. Like they're just really excited to have steak or carnivore pizza, and then it's just like, yeah, that's pretty good. So that's just a piece of advice for maybe someone else who wants to try this out for their kids and struggle to figure out like what to put in the lunch or what to bring to like a buffet or whatever.
That is some great advice there. I love that. It's proud moments when your kids say they want steak, right?
Yeah,
I made
yeah,
a pot
it's really great.
pot roast yesterday, and Samantha wanted cheese on it. So it was kind of like a ground
Mm.
beef dish with cheese. And I gave her a pretty big serving. She's, Dad, I'm hungry. Can I have more pot roast? I'm like, can you have more pot roast? Are you kidding? Yeah, I would love that. She knows how I feel about eating beef. I'm like, yeah, we'll give you some more pot roast. I was so proud and happy.
Yeah, yeah. Also, like our kids can have as much food as they want. Like if they if they can eat free steaks, they eat free steaks. If they can only eat half a steak, and it varies from day to day, they'll only have half a steak. But like if we only made two steaks and they can eat free, we just fry up another one. Like no big deal. Like that's also a good thing about like having plenty of the same foods available. It's just very easy to like adjust to how hungry they are. And yeah, as you say, you get really happy when they want steak. Yeah.
I'm really happy for you and your family. And my hope is that as our kids get older, they will have an impact on their peers as well. Because I know the way
Mm.
Samantha is, she is very determined, and she'll I'll give her we went to the beach the other day and I had a sweatshirt. She's like, well, is this cotton? And she knows to look at the tag now. She's like, Dad, this is half polyester, half cotton. I'm like, I said, listen, babe,
Mm.
we're not trying to be perfect. I brought it because it was quick and easy. At least it's half cotton. She didn't want to put it on. She doesn't want to drink out of
Yeah.
plastic. She's very determined. And I'm hoping that
Mm,
as she gets older, she will be able to spread the message to her peers and have because the younger
mm,
generation is really suffering terribly.
yeah. I hear some people say that when you do this with your kids and like tell them about like food and what's healthy and what's not healthy and yeah, different things like polyester or plastics and what it does to you. Of course, you don't have to like overload your kids with stuff so they go around worrying all the time. But if they're just like, if they just know about it and they know how to make good decisions, I think it's pretty great to do. But I know a lot of adults who think that they should not, like, I should not burden my children with that kind of information, and they will be like worrying about it. And, but them saying, like, oh, I don't want to wear this shirt, or like, I'm thinking about like wearing this because it's polyester, or I'm not sure I can tolerate this food. I've heard um, my middle child say that. Uh, Honestly, I see it more as they have just learned stuff. Like they are trying to navigate the world with the new knowledge that they get. And of course, they stumble upon like, oh, so other people do otherwise. And of course, we have to deal with like that being okay, other people doing that. But we are doing what's best for us. And them knowing about it and being able to like say to other people, oh, I don't want this, or I don't think this is good for me, or whatever they're saying, it's not a sign of them being like oppressed or too over worried. No, it's just a sign of them knowing stuff. They know stuff so they can navigate a really complex world with lots of stuff that can harm them. And actually, the more they can do this, I think is the better. Like, it's just informed kids, and how is that really bad? I mean, uh, it's really great that they can do that, and kids have to learn this because if they go out into the world and they only have their parents to protect them against stuff that's harmful to them, then they won't succeed. They have to be able to learn to stand on their own and to do this by themselves at some day. Of course, we're helping them now, but I mean, they need to know how to navigate it anyway.
That's great. I think you're doing an amazing job as a parent. And Holly's show will be coming out in a couple days. You'll get to listen to her story and how she does things for her kids too. I think you're both doing an amazing job.
Yeah, I'm really excited to hear it as well.
So are we ready to get into the closing now?
Yeah.
Okay. So I have a few questions that would be posed to your younger self. It's two separate questions. And the first would be related to diet and mental or physical health. And the second one is not going to be necessarily related to diet and mental health, but more of a life lesson. So number one is, what is a piece
Mm.
of advice you'd give to your younger self before you discovered this diet? Something along the lines of how to get through the tough times.
I think the advice I would give myself as a younger self is that you're not supposed to feel like this. Like if I was sad, if I feel like I had no control, if I feel like I didn't look good, like I didn't feel good in my body, this is not natural. That would have been a great advice, I think, for me. And it's diet related because now I see that all these symptoms that I had back then, they were diet related because now they're gone, like completely gone. And I haven't changed anything else in my life except my diet. And also, I see all the other people's testimonials about the same thing. So, of course, it's a diet. I think we naturalize so much, so many things that we just forget like that diet is super important. And I should have eaten like eat some more fat, eat some more meat, and just stop eating all those carbs and all the sugar. And that's probably my advice to myself, like diet related, and also quit alcohol. Oh my god, just like don't drink that much. But that was a tough one.
The alcohol is a big one, but I love that you mentioned to eat fat because, coming up in a few minutes, I'm going to have you say our tagline, which is fix yourself with fat. All right. So the
Yeah.
second question is from you to your younger self, but not necessarily related to diet or mental or physical health, just a piece of advice that you would give to your younger self.
I think I would say do your own research. Just try to think more for myself. I mean, I've always been like a super great student. I've gotten straight A's and just been really good at going to school, but I've also always followed every recommendation and every rule and been very compliant. And what I found out that is that many of those recommendations and the way we've been taught stuff is just flawed, and it's impacted by financial interests and political interests and bunch of different interests. And I've always just believed what I was told initially, by the media and by politicians, by guidelines and governments. Yeah, so I feel like now I wanted to say to myself, like, if you don't think this is right, like, just do your own research, like, try to look into it. But that's also a mental health benefit I've experienced now, is that I actually have the energy to do it, and I want to do it. So yeah, maybe it was hard back then to actually get yourself to research.
Very well done. I hadn't been really sure about these questions because they're so related to each other, and
Mm,
so far, each of my guests have really done a wonderful job of answering these questions, so I'm gonna keep them in because it's very powerful stuff that you just said there.
yeah. Thank you.
This is gonna lead me into my signature question, a question that encourages guests to share a broader, more philosophical insight or a life lesson that ties into your experience with the ketogenic lifestyle, and try to provide something meaningful and potentially new even after our in-depth interview. So, what's
Mm.
one powerful piece of fat fueled philosophy, a life lesson or mantra that you've embraced on your ketogenic journey and that you think could inspire our listeners?
I think it's pretty easy. I think it's like butter on everything. Like, that's the way we do it in our house. Actually, my oldest son, he said one day, "Mom, have you ever thought about it? We like the butter family." And it's just like, yes, we are. We are really truly a butter family. We eat so much butter. And and I think the take home message from that, or like the phrase I could say, is just like, fat is your friend. Like, that's really an epiphany I've had on this diet. Like, fat is my best friend, and I need so much fat. I cannot believe the amounts of butter and animal fats I eat every day. And I don't get fat from it. I thrive on it. And in fact, if I try to cut down on it, I get constipated, and it's just not working for me. So I just need so much fat, and my kids do too, and they thrive on it. So fat is your friend. I think that is a very important message.
I love it. Fat is your friend. Fix yourself
Yes.
with fat. Fat is your friend. If you could see
Yeah.
my meals, some of my meals, I mean, there are times where I eat almost a pound of fat in a meal. It's beef fat, it's coming right off a prime rib, and I love it, and you're probably scaring a lot of people out there like, "Fat is so bad for us because 'cause we've been taught our entire
Yeah.
life, especially saturated fat is gonna clog your arteries, and you're not gaining weight." I'm eating 90% of my calories from fat on most days, and I have trouble keeping weight on, and I'm doing things where, I fasted for 42 hours yesterday, I ran sprints, and I ate 5,000 calories at 86% fat, I think it was yesterday. And I woke up today
Mm.
the same exact weight. And prior to that, I did a 93-hour fast and I had 7,000 calories the following day across 2 meals that was almost 90% fat. I woke up the next day and I weighed even less than the day before
Yeah.
after eating all that food.
It's pretty crazy. And like, thinking also that just having a lot of calories on this diet is going to make you overweight. Yeah, sure, it can make you gain maybe a little bit if it's like muscle, or like, if your body is kind of craving, because I think maybe that is what happened to me. But I don't think it's very easy, at least, to gain like fat on this diet. And the more fat you eat, like the more satiated you are, the more you're in deep ketosis, I think. So it just upregulates your metabolism, and you just burn more energy. So it kind of weighs out to the positive, eating more fat.
I agree with you.
Mm.
Awesome. You did a wonderful job
Yeah.
today. Thank you.
Thank you. You too.
So anybody who saw any of my previous shows, if you saw my interview with Connor, You know that I have my 5 tenets, and one of them is to have fun and enjoy life. And I always want to try to take us out with a laugh. So I'm going to put my get up on. We're doing the July 4th theme still. See, you don't know this, but this is what I did with Holly is I had this get up on. This was one of my Father's Day gifts. So the tagline for the show is fix yourself with fat. And one of the ideas I have is to have all my guests do the tagline. And then down the line, when I have a bunch of them, I'm going to piece them all together and make a little video of all my guests saying, fix yourself with fat. So what do you think, Tina? Can you do that with some enthusiasm?
Yes, I can.
Go for it.
Fix yourself with fat.
All right. Please like and subscribe. And please, if you have questions or comments, throw them in the comments on the YouTube. Thank you very much.